Orgasmic enlightenment, where the sexual and spiritual come together. I'm Kim Anami, and I'm a holistic sex and relationship coach and a vaginal weightlifter. In this show, we explore all things intimate. I believe that our sexual energy is life force, creative energy, and we can use it to shape our worlds, strengthen our relationships, and self-actualize. I blend the most avant-garde information from neuroscience, ancient sexual practices like Tantra and Taoism, to renegade wellness modalities to show you how to create gourmet sex in your lives. Come one, come all. Tantric pregnancy, sex as prenatal care. In today's episode, we are speaking with Amanda, who is one of our favorite and most frequent all-stars. We have interviewed her on her journey from no orgasms to having G-spot, cervical orgasms, nipple-gasms, and the biggest orgasms of her life, her birth orgasms. We are talking to her today about her very, very sexual pregnancy and how her libido was not just high, but off the charts. She had a very multi-orgasmic pregnancy. My experience when I was pregnant was the same. I was in a space of totally heightened sensuality where every touch, even a look, would get me gushing wet and having orgasms on the spot. And that's just day to day, not even when I was having sex. When I was actually having sex, they were some of the wildest, most amplified, orgasmic, and ecstatic experiences ever. I felt like an energetic portal was opening and we had tapped into the height of cervical orgasm, magic, and wisdom, amplified by the fact that my cervix was fulfilling its ultimate purpose as the cosmic gateway between life and death. I spoke in last week's episode, All Women Can Have Orgasmic Births, about the idea of pregnancy being a massive 9-month foreplay and arousal experience, which then culminates with birth as the climactic and epic ultimate orgasm that it is. So how does that compare to women who are suffering and tortured through their pregnancies? So much so that now women are even opting to have their children carried by a surrogate so as to avoid the experience of being pregnant. Which would you rather? Perpetual orgasmic bliss or constant suffering? Because I assure you, it is a choice. Let's hear from Amanda on how she made hers. Well fucked all-stars. All right, welcome back, Amanda.
Hi, thank you for having me. What is this, like my 5th time? It's 4th or 5th.
Is it really? I know, I was thinking I've lost count.
Yeah. Well, here I am again.
So we got you back today to talk about your multi-orgasmic, off-the-charts libido tantric pregnancy, meaning you have had, out of your 4 pregnancies, 3 of them where you were very libidinous and really using sex, as you say, as prenatal care. So tell us all about this and your evolution, because you say that your first pregnancy wasn't like that. And so what was the shift that then brought you into those spaces for the final, or for your last 3 pregnancies?
Yeah, so yes, I'm currently on my 4th pregnancy, and given what my pregnancies and birth experiences are like, perhaps that's why I'm on my 4th one.
Meaning
so yeah,
what? Explain for people who may not know. What does that mean?
I'm just assuming people know, but yeah, each of my births, including my first, so I'll get into all of this, but all of my births, including my very first one, have been totally epically orgasmic, painless, and blissful. It's certainly much to my surprise with the first one, which again I'll get into. But I don't have experience with birth in any other way. Like, it's all just been complete bliss from the very beginning. So
So
Very, very different from all of the programming that I was raised with. Very different from my own birth, anything I'd ever heard, which is, of course, which most of us hear, which is largely pretty traumatic, very painful, long. It's like an ordeal, for so many women. And that's just completely opposite of my experiences, again, from the very beginning.
I love that, because essentially what you're saying is that because you've had such epic, blissful, orgasmic births, it's inspiration to keep doing them. Like, I think you've said it's your most fun thing to do.
It's my favorite thing to do in the whole world, and you can only do it so many times, so that's why, like, again, I'm not just gonna keep having children just so I can have the greatest orgasm that there is, but I genuinely do want our children, and that's what's amazing. And I'll get into this, but that's what's amazing about sex and the work that you teach, is that, like, this is the bridge to me between what is the greatest orgasm imaginable in my mind, which is birth. Like, I really think actually that's like the true real queen, but again, like, you can only have like so many of those in your lifetime. So cervical orgasms to me are like second to that, but like completely epic. So yeah, I will start, I guess, with my first pregnancy and birth, which is that my first pregnancy, it was definitely not like some epic like conscious conception at all. Like it was very much a surprise, but definitely like what I needed like in my life. It's so funny, like even though it wasn't a conscious conception, my son clearly came to me at a time where he needed to be in my life and completely changed it, transformed it, initiated me into my life now. And all of what I'm going to get into pretty much. So, yeah, my first pregnancy, my husband and I had been together for, I think, about 4 years at that point. Definitely had gotten into like the 2-year, like, sex just goes downhill after that point stage. And I really was worried and concerned and confused at that time because my libido completely started to go away. I started to become very disinterested in sex. It started to become painful. I was actively looking for ways to avoid it. I was manifesting UTIs to avoid sex like an hour before at like 8 p.m. I'd get a UTI. Like it's insane the way that the body speaks to you, because now I can obviously recognize that as a way of trying to avoid sex and work deeper on myself and our relationship, but I just didn't get it at the time. And so that's where I was at this time. And, oh gosh, yeah, we totally, conceived. I think it was birthday sex for me. It was like birthday sex for me, and yeah, became pregnant, and it was really scary at first. Like we weren't sure if it was something we wanted to do, but then very soon I realized that yes, like I actually absolutely like want to have this baby. I'm very happy to be here, and really changed myself so much. Like right after that, it immediately went into like well, thankfully at that stage in my life, I'd also done a lot of research I've been going down just a health rabbit hole in general, been learning a lot about like the corruption in Western medicine. I had already been making all my own food myself. So I was aware of the corruption in the system overall, and also definitely knew about home birth and water birth. And just intuitively, I was like, oh, well, that makes so much more sense. Like why... I'm not going to give birth under like fluorescent lighting, with a bunch of people. And even from my own, the stories I grew up, like my own birth story is very traumatic. And I was like, why am I going to potentially walk into the same situation when staying at home just feels so much safer, So, and that was a really huge thing, like in my family, because nobody had ever done it before. I never knew anyone who'd given birth at home before. But it was like a no-brainer for me to do that. So I made that decision. And yeah, like I said, was kind of controversial at the time. Like in my friend group, my workplace, like family, everyone was like, why are you doing this? This is weird. Or are you sure you want to do this? Like they already figured it out. They know how to do birth like better, in the hospital. So that was fun. But so beyond that though, I had this really interesting, like, it was kind of interesting to me. So whereas I was very like assertive and like really advocating for myself in a way that I never had before in my life, like to do this, home birth, I also was very disconnected from myself at the same time. Like it was really like, looking back on it now, I can see how much was like externalized. And like for example, like I hired a midwife and I was very much looking to her to like be an authority and like kind of like legitimize my decision basically. And so I was looking to like other things to yeah, I guess just legitimize my decision. I wasn't doing a whole lot of internal work. It's funny because at the same time, like I did love being pregnant. I clearly was like witnessing like the magic of my body and growing this baby, and I was like learning to trust myself so much more deeply, but at the same time had no like connection to my body at the same time, like I was describing where my sex life was at the time. Like that didn't get better. I don't even know, I could probably count on one hand maybe how many times we had sex during my first pregnancy, and like definitely like zero self-pleasuring. At that point in my life, I thought I was one of those women who just didn't like it. Some women do and some women don't, so like that was not even a thing in my mind at all. No connection to my breasts. Yeah, the sex was very chore-like, and it was more like I felt bad because there would be such a long like spurt, in between that we would. But I just didn't want to do that. So that's kind of the interesting thing, is that my birth ended up being completely painless and ecstatic and orgasmic. But so that's kind of the interesting thing, is that I think that this way of birth is completely natural and innate to women. So ideally, you're definitely like sexually connected to yourself. But what I learned in that birth is what I was able to later transfer to doing your work, which I'll get into next, which was surrender. Like I actually learned like in birth, like how to surrender like in the moment and really like totally fall in love like with the process. And I was like just amazed by what my body was doing and being in a completely like undisturbed environment, which I was like, my midwife like didn't even, she made it for like literally like the final inning. Like she barely made it. I did like 99% of my labor by myself, and then she made it at the last minute, and then my son was born. But yeah, so it was interesting to have been disconnected, but then to have learned that connection literally in the moment of birth. And so after giving birth that first time, I was like totally confused. I was like, what did my vagina just do? I never had felt anything like that in any sex I'd ever had. Obviously, I'd never, self-pleasuring was like just not a part of my life at all. I was like, how do I do this ever again? Like, was that it? Like, if I can't access this in sex, like I just had a random fluke, like amazing orgasmic birth. Like it was so confusing to me. So, but also so beautiful and inspirational, because I was like, oh my God, like, okay, so I guess this is possible. And then it was, oh gosh, maybe another 18 months to maybe 2 years before I discovered your work. And after giving birth, the whole sex life thing did not improve. It was terrible. I actually got worse because I was so confused And so I felt even more fractured, actually. Like, even though I had had an incredible birth, it just felt like this singular experience that I didn't know how to like get back to. And again, there's so many ways that I felt more powerful, like in my life and within myself. But the sexual piece was really missing for me, and I still really didn't understand how to like deeply like connect with my husband at all. I just couldn't get that like back together at all. And so like I said, I discovered your work. I think maybe my son was like 18 months or 2 years or something like that. And we'd definitely gotten to like a rock bottom type place in our relationship, and sex was not happening at all, or very, very infrequently. And so the way that you spoke about sex was like exactly how I felt in birth, you know, in my first birth. And I was like, oh, I was like, okay, like I can get back to this, you know, somehow I can make this like a regular thing. It doesn't have to be like an isolated, you know, experience for me. And so, yeah, that basically in between my first and second pregnancy is when I discovered your work. I took the Well-Fucked Woman first, and it completely like seismically shifted like my whole life. It was completely, I went from, you know, again, like never ever having an orgasm besides my birth, like in my entire life. Like, yeah, the whole time my husband and I were together, I'd never had an orgasm, including clitoral. And so then I went to Well-Fucked Woman and had learned, it's because I had learned, I think, how to surrender like so massively in birth, that what you teach, you know, in your work is that surrender is like the key to these deeper orgasms. So I was so grateful to have had that experience because it transferred over. And it was within the length of the salon, which is, you know, 8 weeks, that I was able to experience like my first vaginal G-spot orgasms. Cervical orgasms took a little bit longer, but I kept up with all of this work, like very, very dedicated. And it was like another 6 months that I was able to experience that. But yeah, like I said, just completely whole shifted my life, and I was able to just tap back into that which I had experienced in birth, and totally changed my relationship. I was finally able to learn how to like communicate with him, and we've basically been having incredible sex ever since then. And that was like the first that was maybe about 4 or 5 years into our relationship, and that's when like the sex became like completely epic. So later, you know, in our relationship compared to even like the beginning. So then moving on to my second pregnancy, that's when like I was like, okay, like I mentioned in my first one, it felt very externalized. Like I was really looking like elsewhere for not validation, but I felt like I was really, really like fighting for my choice and really having to like advocate for myself, and it was exhausting. And so the second time I was like, fuck all of that. Basically, I was like, I'm gonna go like really, really internal. And I just like self-pleasured and had sex all the time, pretty much. It was like sex is my prenatal care. That's what it became. You know, I did have like, I actually did hire my same midwife, but it was so funny. I never had like any questions for her. It was just, she was kind of a lifeline to like the natural birth community at the time. I didn't really have any friends who were interested in it. This was kind of before like the whole internet world like exploded with connection in that way. So that's why I brought her back into my life. But largely, yeah, like I didn't bother to surround myself with people who weren't on my same page, and I just went really, really, really deep within. And it's so funny. Like I kind of laugh at all the things that people think are prenatal care when it's really just like living like your life. And for me, like I said, like sex was a massive, massive part of that, because that's how you stay in like that frequency and ability to surrender, which is so, of course, that's just as important in birth as it is in sex and so many other areas of life. And that kept me in that ability. Because you know what? Like, going into my second birth, I can definitely say I experienced a lot of like mental like fighting with myself, like even wondering, even though I'd had the birth experience that I did, I was like, can this actually happen again? Like, is it possible to have like another orgasmic birth? And I wasn't like forcing myself to self-pleasure or have sex to like force an orgasmic birth experience. It was just true. Like, it was just like I was so in my body, so able to experience like these orgasms and just forget like the world around me and be so surrendered that it happened naturally, like, and as I've since learned, that's really the key. And I've been able to do it like every single time.
So when you're saying it happened naturally, like your libido just felt very high, like you weren't consciously thinking sex is a great thing to do during pregnancy. Maybe on some level you were, but you were just feeling very like libidinous.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, like insane, totally insane. Yeah, because like I had started, the well-fucked woman work before I actually became pregnant, and then I did BKF as well. And was so in my body already. My natural libido, which you're always talking about, is like within us, had already been like unleashed. And then when I became pregnant, it just like expanded like even further. And I've never, yeah, it's funny. Like I already have like now that I have been doing this work, and again, it's been unleashed. I do have a high libido, but it does get like even extra like during pregnancy. And I think it's like, it's just such an epic, like you're literally like creating life, it's like, it's the most potent portal that there is, in a woman's life. So I just feel like it's natural that like your libido, your life force, your sexual energy would also just be extremely high if you're really like connected to yourself, to your body, to the entire to the entire like process, of birthing life. And so, yeah, absolutely. Like I was really blown away by the difference, like the second time versus the first, because like I had these experiences of like, and this is what I'm also experiencing now, like my breasts like wake me up in the middle of the night because they want to be like touched and all that. And like same thing, it's like, or even my vagina too, it's like you talk about, it's like its own like sentient being. It has like its own consciousness, and it's like they wake me up to do all this stuff. And it's incredible. It's so beautiful. And I definitely never thought that was something that I would ever experience, but that's what, it's just natural if you're in that flow already and have done that work, which I did. So yeah.
I love that. And what would you say, so when you talk about sex being your prenatal care, and I love what you said about the frequency of surrender, like staying in tune with that as the best preparation for birth, because it is the same process, this really, really high level, deep level of surrender. And what else would you say that being within that sexual flow and energy did for you as prenatal care, like during, preparing you for birth and opening you to that experience? What were the other benefits that you felt?
Mm-hmm. I would say kind of what I was touching on earlier, which was being able to go inside as opposed to outside. Like,
right. I was thinking when you talked about like the seeking out of the midwife, and I can see how people would think, okay, like I go to the midwife, which is the alternative structure, and I do what I'm told there, but it's still a very external orientation, right? Like
Very
listening
much.
to a better class of authority than, say, an
Yes.
OBGYN, but still looking to them as the authority and them as like the
Yeah.
guide. Okay, well, and what do I do here? What do I expect here? Rather than what, I teach in my work and we talk about in this whole world of free birthing is that you
Yeah.
are your own authority. Your body is your own authority. And I would say then within this conversation is that you as a sexual being are the ultimate authority, because the
Yeah.
wisdom and the intuitive flow and again that sense of surrender, which I always talk about the parallels between spiritual and sexual surrender. They're really one and the same. The sense of
Yeah.
opening up to a greater power, a greater energy within ourselves or the universe at large, and becoming a channel for that. And the little parts of us step aside. It's the exact same
Mm.
process.
Yeah. 100%. I totally agree. And yeah, in my second pregnancy, I would say is when I had a massive consciousness shift and like pro even more like so much I had learned to trust myself so deeply in my first pregnancy. But my second one, I feel like is where it was a massive like, oh gosh, how do I describe it? It was like a really reality shattering time for me because I was struggling, or not, maybe not struggling, but I was like letting go of these parts that still had like a connection or feeling like yeah, I guess a connection to these external forces of authority. All of us have grown up in like this Western allopathic world, and we all have little things in our mind that bring us back now and again that we have to like continually like release and let go of. And my second pregnancy, I would say, was like a massive massive time of letting go of my ties with that world. And it was kind of a challenge for me because I hired my midwife almost immediately upon becoming pregnant, which I, wish I hadn't done. I do love her. I really do. As far as like midwives go, she's so hands off, very consent based, but it's just even a subtle authority over yourself is actually pretty suffocating. And you don't realize that until you go another way, which is what I've since done. Like I've had this is my second wild pregnancy, which is literally zero hired care of any kind. There's nothing in, midwifery or OBGYNs, nothing at all, And so in my second pregnancy, like I said, I hired her, but through doing all of this sexual work and being really like within myself, I was like, why did I hire her? Like, I don't understand. Like, I have nothing to ask her, nothing to go to her for. She can't make me feel the same trust in my body, like I'm connected to God and the universe that cervical orgasms help me feel. She can't give me that, like that's all you actually need is understanding how this is so for you. This is what women do, and yeah, I was just like, oh my God, like why did I hire her? So that was a big struggle for me because that was when I actually had really discovered free birth and was like, oh my gosh, I wish I had gone that way instead. And that was on me. Like I could have fired her and I didn't. So that's a huge lesson for me and why my last two pregnancies have been without any care whatsoever. But yeah, it was so interesting in my second birth with my daughter, like compared to the first, there were moments where I could see how I could have teetered. I started to teeter on experiencing pain, but and it was because like it was like that's very subtle like frequency of having someone in my sphere who was a quote authority. She wasn't doing anything to me. She wasn't asking me questions. She was in another room, but it was just her presence at all that was like making me feel like uncomfortable, you know, because I was like, I just want to be like, I want to be like in the wilderness by myself. I don't want to ever have anyone with me again. I don't need them. They don't, you know, they don't need to be with me. I can do this by myself. And it's like disconnecting me to have somebody in my sphere when this is something that's like just so internal and I'm feeling like high, you know, like I don't want anyone near me basically. But the thing is what was so interesting is that because I feel like I've really kind of like mastered the ability to surrender even in moments like that through, again, this sexual work and just staying. Surrender is more like a way of life, you know. It's like something I can tap into like so easily, even in times of stress like that. So there were times where I teetered on. I know I could have gone over into the side of pain, but I didn't, because I was able to completely let it go. And I did accept my decision at the time. I was like, you know what, this is what I've done. It's okay. If she does come in and do anything, I'll push her away for now, but I'm here and I'm gonna do this thing, you know. And absolutely, like I totally had an epic, you know, orgasmic birth again, and the sensations turned from being, again, I wouldn't even say that they ever went fully into pain, but I could see that they were like kind of on their way, but they transformed and they became more just powerful without pain, and just feeling like I loved them. Like I loved the feeling of them. You know, to me, they feel very blissful. And I know that it's just the brilliance of our bodies, like working. I don't fear it at all, you know? So yeah, that was an interesting thing that I experienced, that I was able to get out of those moments, like from what I've learned, you know, from doing this work. What else? Yeah, and that was like my initiation into being like taking complete full self-responsibility for my birth experiences and being really clear. I was like, I don't need this like ever again, you know. Like it just cut the last little mental ties that I had to that world, and feeling any kind of yeah, it's just interesting to think of why I even hired her to begin with, you know. Like I just didn't at the time like even have the courage to like, you know, fire her. I could have done that, but I just couldn't at the time. And now I would never even enter that world, you know, midwifery, or certainly an OBGYN or doctor, like definitely not, but not even midwifery. I'm good.
I think, you know, there's also that connection with the idea that I talk about being a well-fucked woman. One of the hallmarks of being a well-fucked woman, or I would say phases that I look at when a woman's really arrived into that energy of self-possession, is not giving a fuck what other people think about you. And you become very clear about yourself and your own autonomy, your own authority, your own opinions, because you've lost this veneer of giving a shit what anybody else thinks. Yeah. And so what might be there for people, it is in there for everyone, but now it can come out unobstructed because nothing's blocking it, right? Yeah. All of these other self-censoring, other censoring things that we allow to attach to us just fade away, and we're just left with our own truth and our own direction in life.
Totally, because that's like even a next level then for me that I had to reach, or that I had to embody, like going into my third pregnancy, because this was then like the time where I of course didn't hire anyone at all. It was just me from the very beginning. I never even took a pregnancy test. Like yeah, my prenatal care was sex, self-pleasuring, being with like-minded women, eating all the foods that I like, you know, like it's just so funny. It cracks me up, like what we have constructed as being prenatal care, all these things that you're supposed to do, when it's literally just living your normal life as normal. You know, there's nothing else to do except just
Except just what?
Or sorry, what were you gonna say? Yeah, and so this third time was then like a next level of embodiment for me, because again, it was clear that I had to tell everyone that I'm not going to see anyone at all. Actually, what I did do this time is I actually did wait like quite some. I was actually more insulated. I actually purposely like insulated myself and didn't want to invite any kind of energy that was unwanted for me or that would be questioning in any way. And I was so comfortable in doing that. Like that was a boundary that I have always struggled with making with my family or like friends that I'm not like totally aligned with anymore. I felt like zero. I was not compelled in any way to just tell people, that I was pregnant or how I was doing it. When it did come up, it was like so much more casual. I was like, oh yeah, it's just gonna be, me and my husband this time, like not a big deal. And then you get the like, what do you mean? Like, who's gonna be there though? Like, who's gonna deliver the baby? And all these silly questions.
Well,
and it's like,
my 2 other kids are gonna be there, and my husband's gonna be there.
exactly.
We've got some kittens in the house. They'll probably be
Yeah.
running around,
Me, the mother who's giving birth to the baby coming out of my vagina that I can reach physically with my hands, maybe me, like it's insane. Like you how trapped people are in their minds when they ask these questions that are, once you get to this place, you realize like how silly they are, even though these are the questions that like everyone grows up wondering. Like, yeah, who's gonna deliver the baby? Who's gonna save the mother from this like experience? Like that's what it feels like. And once you get to this place of being like, I don't need anything whatsoever, like besides myself, it's just laughable. It's really, really, all the questions just feel so so ignorant. And you can only just kind of laugh it off. But yeah, so that was just like the next level of like self-advocacy that I had to make, but it wasn't so like, it wasn't come from a place of like fighting for myself at all anymore. It was just something I was like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing, not a big deal. Like, didn't have to explain myself in any way. Whereas previously, I definitely felt that. Like, I felt the need to explain what I was doing. And it's because I didn't have the same level of internal, resourcing and strength and belief in myself that I did at that stage in my life. And now it's funny because now on my 4th time, like, everyone's just like, oh, she's just doing her thing. Like now nobody cares at all. Like, I got questions like number 1, 2, and 3, but now everyone's like, oh, we don't give a fuck. She's just doing her thing. But yeah, so that it's been such a beautiful, beautiful journey to just keep cutting those ties and be where I am now, of complete and utter like belief in myself. It's astounding to me that I guess I even had to do that work in the first place. Like this shit where I am now should be like the natural place where every woman is. Like it's mind blowing to me that I had to do so much to get here, but I am, and I'm so grateful. And there's like just such an epic revolution right now happening of women reclaiming this and feeling that they can do this on like a deep cellular level. And it's really beautiful to see. And I'm so excited. Like I said, giving birth literally is my favorite thing to do. And I can't wait, until this 4th time. I always say, and it's so funny. Like I always say, like, I could give birth at any moment. And it's that surrender. Of course, I don't want to give birth before it's like right now. I'm only like 4 months right now, but you know what I mean? It's just that mindset that I have that I could give birth at any moment. And it's really the same. That's the surrender that I've learned. It's like I can surrender to my circumstances. Like I can, whatever is happening, I can sink into that moment. And that's what, all the work that I've done with you has helped me to accomplish, just be in that frequency of surrender.
Can you speak more to that and what it means sexually for you? Like we've talked about the frequency of sex, the power of cervical orgasms, the relationship with surrender, but specifically sexually, what does that look and feel like for you?
Yeah. So, you know, I can't help but like relate birth to like everything, and just knowing, of course, what it's like to give birth. It's so similar to sex because, when you're in labor, you just don't really know what's going to happen. There's an unknown there. And it's exactly the same as with sex. It's like you're in this really powerful, charged experience. Like you're connected with your partner, whereas in birth, you're connected with your baby. And it's just like, it feels like it could be really scary because you don't know what's on the other side. Like leading up to a cervical orgasm can be really, well, it can be scary sometimes because it just feels so like massively charged. Like you don't know what's going to like come out of you, what sounds are going to come out of you, what, I don't know, memories you might get. You might cry. It's like just even the recent ones that I've had have been like the most insane like catharsis that I've felt. It's just like you don't even know what you're going to let go of, but you can feel that it's huge, And so leading up to that, it's like you have to trust and allow yourself that your body knows what it's doing and that it's going to get rid of something that you really need, or initiate you into like a higher level of like bliss and love. And that's really scary to like receive, for a lot of people. And it has been for me too, like for sure. Like I've had a lot of intimacy issues for sure. Like allowing my husband to like bring me to these places, like has been very, very hard in many ways. I naturally have had like a block, an intimacy block, like heart. I would even say like my heart, has been like closed in many ways. And so doing this, it's like, it's just that risk of vulnerability. And you have to trust that going on that other side, you're actually going to be initiated into a higher level of love, which I think is what the challenge is. It's just the difficulty in accepting what that feels like, that you could be loved, that you could be, accepted on this level. And it's really the same with birth, in my opinion. It's like, are you going to allow your life force to like move through you, or are you going to block it, and be afraid of it and shut yourself down? And for me, it literally just feels like all my muscles, like everything just completely, like I consciously like tell myself to like let go and like relax. And because you can feel where you're holding back, like with tension, whether it's like in sex and you're like closing up here and there, like different muscle places, or in birth, like resisting like a contraction, and making it a lot worse by doing that, as opposed to like really like sinking into it and allowing it to like to move through you instead. So that's kind of my experience with it. Yeah, that's what I would say.
I love that. That's really beautifully described. Yeah. And how would you describe then your day-to-day interactions, if you're open to describing them, with your husband, with yourself? Like, what does it look like to feel like you have an off the charts libido during your pregnancy, right? Like, how often are these things happening? How long are they happening for?
It feels like what you talk about, like being available, like anytime, anywhere, and you just do. It's like even what I said, like I could give birth anytime. It's like, oh, I could have sex anytime, like it feels like that. And like it's just absolute constant like gushing wetness, for one thing, like even more than normal. Like even it feels like beyond me. Like I was saying earlier, it's like my breasts and my vagina, like they have their own schedule of when they want to do things. And some things sometimes I have to get things done, but like they're way louder than me, so I have to stop. It again, like I do have 3 kids right now, so it's not like I can actually just stop at any moment and do these things, but sometimes I actually will, like, close the door and do what I need to do. Yeah, and so obviously, so for me, like, I'm self-pleasuring a lot. Like I said, like, it's just, I'm even being woken up in, like, the middle of the night. My husband works late sometimes, so sometimes he's not there, and so I have to do my own thing, and I do, and, like, I'll self-pleasure for, like, this last week. People always talk about, like, oh, like, if you wake up at 2 or 3 a.m., like it's bad or whatever, like I'm waking up, I'm self-pleasuring for like 2 hours, like almost every day I'm waking up like at that time, and like I'm just like, okay, well, it's either sex or self-pleasuring, in the middle of the night, because I'm literally being woken up, and feeling like like I need to do that. So I'm doing that. And then my husband, like he's always been amazing. Well, actually, since we've like embarked on this work, he's like takes it very seriously to like improve on his skills, and to really like take serious time to like get to know, open, and just worship my body. Like he's an incredible, like, I don't even have the need to go to massages elsewhere, honestly. Like every time we have sex, pretty much like we open with like a full body massage that's at least like 45 minutes long, or even close to an hour, and he just like, he loves it, and so that of course makes me feel incredibly loved and open and all of that. And then and then after that is like another hour or so, 45 minutes, an hour, of sex after that, and then sometimes another time beyond that time. So gosh, what else? It's
So you'd say every day you're having sexual experiences?
Pretty much almost every day. Like sometimes there's a day where it's not, but pretty much every day. And at least like it's like that simmer that you talk about is there. Like I'm connected, like I'm ready. I'm in that that surrender, I could do any of that. And I'd probably do it more often if I didn't have 3 children.
Right. But I just wanted to point that out for people. You have 3 children, you work, and you have a husband, and you're pregnant, and you're still having sex or self-pleasuring nearly every day, and sometimes for hours at a time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it does, like, because this is like the difference in what you teach, is that it's, if you're doing it the way that we're meant to, like it's energizing. It's not draining, it's not like just a quickie, or, just one plural orgasm or whatever. It's nothing like that. It's like, it's just so deeply like replenishing. And again, it gets to this point where, like I've been saying, it's like my body is stopping me to tell me that I need to do that because it's craving it. Like my vagina will like just start like pulsing, or my breasts, they feel like they need to be touched or whatever. So it's been incredible to experience. Definitely something I thought I never would, something I didn't even know was possible, was so opposite of my life experience, before discovering your work, and I've been practicing it now for, I guess, about 6 years now. And 6-year journey of living this Anami lifestyle.
And you mentioned, or I think I just want to make it clear, that your libido has been amplified during pregnancy. So obviously you've been doing all of this work, as you say, for 6 years. So there's been this up level in your sexuality and your relationship, but you actually feel even more amplified sexually during pregnancy, correct?
Yeah, I would definitely say that. It kicks in, again, these past 3 pregnancies, it kicks in almost immediately. Like it's I guess it just is. It's that flow of life because it's extra. You're growing like another life. So I feel like it's just like extra life force. And it's so much more amplified. I can't even think of another way to describe it. It's just the pleasure feels more, the lubrication is more, everything is so much more sensitive. Like it's just that swelling of being full of life. That's the only like reason or connection that I can think of. Like whatever, if somebody wants to talk about some kind of hormones or whatever, like to me, that's the reason. It's like once you know and make that connection between life force energy, sexual energy, it only makes sense that being pregnant, you have more, and you're already this portal that is so open to, receiving life and then are going to give life. And it just, yeah, it's already amazing. Non-pregnant times, it's already, my libido is already really high. I've gotten to a point where it's very easy for me, again, to surrender and experience cervical orgasms. The pleasure is already really, really high normally, but it's like even more, when I'm pregnant, which is so beautiful to experience. Yeah, and there's something that I feel like I need to be clear about, that with, even the experiences that I've had, like these totally orgasmic pregnancies, and births, it's not as though the entirety of like the pregnancy, for example, is just like all unicorns and rainbows, and I'm just feeling like, on top of the world at every moment. It's not always like that. Like in every pregnancy, all of us have like a lot of our own, stored traumas and stuff to work on, programming to work on. And I'm no exception to that. And that's kind of part of my point that I want to make, is that doing this sexual work and learning how to surrender, you're also working on a lot of these really challenging things that is very unique to each of us. We all have our own things to work through, like in our pregnancies that come up. And just as an example, like this one that I'm in right now, it's wonderful. I absolutely love it. I love being pregnant. I feel very connected, to my baby and all of that. But like, I've never, ever cried more than I have now in my entire life. I could just start crying at any moment. And I just like right now I could cry, and it feels like things are being released, like from whatever, like my unconscious, like I don't even know where, like it's just being released during this time. And sometimes it feels really, really heavy, and I don't know what it is, but that's part of the beauty, is that you don't need to know what it is. It's just coming out of you. And so it's not like I'm going through like this massive like hardship in my life, but yeah, like there's things that are coming up that are very like painful for me, and I'm crying them out. Like literally, I've been talking about, like self-pleasuring or having sex in the middle of the night. Just the other night, I woke up at 2 a.m. and I was bawling. I was just crying, and I felt so sad about nothing and that I could really like specifically link it to, but I was just feeling that way. But at the same time, I was like insanely turned on. So I self-pleasured for like an hour. I used my Siva, which is my favorite. I don't even use the other ones. I just go straight to Siva. And I was like crying and self-pleasuring, and it was like an incredible like catharsis. And I felt like I was just purging whatever it was that needed to be purged, and that I felt so cleansed after. Totally had incredible, cervical orgasm as a result. And I cried a lot more after that too. But it felt amazing, and that's, yeah, I guess I just want to make that clear, that like you can have these kinds of pregnancies, these kinds of births, but you're definitely still working on whatever it is within you that needs to be released. And I've done that in all my pregnancies. This fourth one, has been the most intense when it comes to dealing with whatever stuff. And again, that's actually part of it. I can't really really link it to anything. It just feels like a lot of stuff from my past that's like being released at this time. And I'm just trusting my body to let go what needs to be let go. Just like you do in a cervical orgasm, just like you do in a birth, which is so beautiful. Because you can trust your body to do that. It'll release whatever needs to go. So yeah, I just want to make that very clear. It's not as though it's just this like perfect, blissful experience like every single moment. There's definitely, pain that comes up, but this is like the best portal, in my opinion, to let go of that stuff, like for good, and to be completely reborn. Like I really wish there was some like visual or something. I wish I could see what the moment of birth looks like, actually, like what gets released like from the body or from a cervical orgasm, like, because it's like, where does it go? Like it's gone after, and you feel like a completely different person. But yeah, I just love thinking about that, like the visual of the stuff leaving, like what color is it, like what texture, I don't know, but you just know that it's gone, and you do feel like a different person. So that's another thing, is that you can really look at doing all of this work as being such a powerful ally for whatever challenges that you're going to come up against, like in your pregnancy, and of course in life overall, but like definitely during pregnancy, because we all have our own stuff to deal with. So yeah, I would just like to add that.
I love that. And what you were describing about feeling like you have this sadness that needs to come out, and you cry and you let it out and you don't even know what it is. It reminds me so much of the cervical orgasm releases, of crying when there's something that's big and stuck, and you can cry and fuck it out of you, and you don't even know most of the time what it's related to. You can just feel it needs to come out and be released. And it's so amazing if you just follow and trust that pathway. Yeah, I love how you said that. Is there anything else that you want to add?
Gosh, not really. I guess just to look at this sexual work, like, yeah, not something to like force upon yourself. Like, I'm gonna make myself self-pleasure like every day to equal an orgasmic birth. That's not really how it works. You have, whether it's sex, whether it's birth, self-pleasuring, whatever, you have to actually be in the moment and completely like present with it. You can't force that stuff, like, and I really do. I think sex is like this untapped prenatal care, for women, that is really some of the best way to connect yourself to the feeling of birth before you even experience it. So I think it's so potent for women, no matter what pregnancy they might be on, but for women who are on their first, like, gosh, I wish I had known. Like women are always like so concerned because they're like, I have no idea like what birth feels like. I'm terrified. But it's like, go have a cervical orgasm. That's like the next closest experience that you could possibly have. Like people, I think we talked about this in the last interview, but people want to go do plant medicine, to access these like other dimensions and what being like opened by the universe might feel like. Well, it's like you already have that literally in your body that you can tap into every single day of your life. So it's like, go straight to the source instead, and you will be able to experience, like, get a glimpse of what birth feels like, and be able to learn the only thing you actually need to learn how to give birth is to surrender. You will make all the intuitive decisions you need from being in that state. And this is the best way. Like, nothing else really teaches you on that level how to surrender.
Fantastic. This is awesome, as usual. We're 5 for 5 or 6 for 6 or whatever it is.
Something. Who even knows? Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. It's so important for me to talk about this stuff and just show like another way of being. It's not a fluke. Obviously, I'm on my fourth one at this stage, and from first to now, like it's something that you can do. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak about it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. Amazing, isn't she? Let's be clear that Amanda's experiences are the result of what she's referred to several times during our conversation as doing the work. So, what is this mysterious work? It's the process of clearing the blocks that prevent you from realizing the true potential that we all have. This is the Anami guarantee that all women, all people can tap into this innate knowledge and pleasure that is our birthright. The work is then committing to and implementing new ways of being, new techniques to get to the core of your own truth of who you really are. This is the crux of everything that we do in my salons. A feng shui clearing of your life, your psyche, your body, and your bed. Remove the debris and the clutter, much of what isn't even yours to begin with, so that the true you can emerge. And you can do this in all of my salons. All of the sexual work on you and your relationship to your own body and your partner is the most essential birth preparation. And to take that even further, I created my Sexy Mama Salon. I am extremely passionate about women and men liberating themselves from the fear and the violence-based allopathic medical, surgical birthing apparatus, and instead being able to experience the most transcendent moments of their lives in birthing their children through their own power. In my 8-week online Sexy Mama Salon, I arm you with all of the facts and energetic awareness to take you there. It's full of meticulous research and the most cutting-edge quantum techniques to give you the confidence to birth through your own power. You don't have to be committed to home birth to take the salon. However, many women end up choosing that route, though, once they see that it's actually the safest option. Yes, even statistically speaking. In the salon, we cover everything from preconception to blissful pregnancy, how to create an orgasmic birth, and an empowered postpartum and early childhood. All of the alternative and most cutting-edge ideas that I know of and that I used in my own pregnancy and birth, and much more that I have learned since, are all included in the salon. The salon is open for registration now. This may be the last time that we run this salon live, and so if you're keen, now is the time. You don't even have to be pregnant to take the salon. If you know that you want to have children in the future, this is your ultimate compendium of all you need to know. And you have lifetime access to it. Go to kimanami.com, look for Sexual Savant Salons, and then click on Sexy Mama to sign up. Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, subscribe and also leave a review. And send someone else the gift of a healthy libido and an off-the-charts love life by sharing this episode with them. We'll be back next week, and in the meantime, many happy orgasms.